Right, welcome back to Supernova Labs. It's been a long time since we spoke. Just wanted to get an idea of where we're at and what it is we're doing. It's been a hell of a few months. So the drone is built, has flown, whether you can call it flying. Basically just like went up, fell out of the sky. It's too heavy. I've overprinted it and the engine I bought isn't big enough for it, so at the minute I've spent all this money on trying to get this built and it's not flying, which is not great, but the whole point of it was to be a pathfinder for 3D printing these things, so now I know how much I can 3D print, how fast I can 3D print them, how much engine power I need, which is more than that. I might need 2 electroductive fans, and to reduce the weight massively. So I think where with this design I'm supposed to print with 1 wall, I printed with 2, so it's just nearly double the weight it needs to be, which is kind of devastating for all the work I put into it, but it's the nature of making these things. I've got some rocket engines now, some like small ones for hobby rockets that might give it the boost it needs, but one thing, if it's that heavy and that underpowered, even if I can get it to a takeoff velocity, will it just stall instantly and fall out of the sky? I think I need to reprint parts of it. I need to upgrade the engines, both of those at least, to get it in the air. You will have seen a little cinematic at the beginning of this. I'm trying to professionalize some of the content I'm putting out now by having proper title cards and end cards. And yeah, I'm supposed to be putting a bid together right now. So there are 2 big bids open right now in the UK. One is the National Space Innovation Programme, and that is for companies that want to do Kickstarter style projects or major projects for technologies. And then further from that is the European Launcher Challenge. The European Launch Challenge is 170 million euros, which is a huge amount of money. But specifically for upgrading Europe's launch capacity. We've been all around the houses speaking to people at the Graphene Institute in Manchester, Manufacturing Technology Centre, a whole bunch of startups, people that work in industry, people that manage these kind of projects before, and it's big, it's really big. Yeah, very big. Still putting proposals together now for it. But it does feel like a window in which we can slot a single stage orbit space plane. Now, I was having a conversation with some friends over at Neutron Star Systems about their engine currently, and they are using superconducting magnet tape to decrease the size of arc jet engines. So typical ion thrusters, they're just particle accelerators, and arc jets are kind of like that but with a heavier mass, so you can accelerate the plasma faster and get more thrust out of it, but they're only built for very small applications. So Neutron Star Systems are targeting 200 millinewtons currently for their next test, whereas for a spaceplane main engine you're talking about 20,000 newtons plus for a 2-ton craft at least. So we're a few orders of magnitude out. Now it doesn't mean the technology can't be applied. So for those that know, we're working on a small rotating detonation engine. With the geometry down, it's just a case of testing it. But something that I see happening is there's a confluence of events really between like rotating detonation engines, magnetoplasmodynamic engines, kind of like sound shaping plasma, and microwaves pumping chemical rocket fuel. Because I've spoken to other companies like MagDrive, and they really helpfully helped us through the equations for free ions in a chemical rocket stream. And one thing that fell out of that is that there isn't really enough ions in a chemical rocket stream right now to accelerate it. Because what you need are free ions, plasma to accelerate. So if you think about it like this, so you have a rotating detonation wavefront that's being turned into a plasma by microwaves in the cavity that then gets accelerated with a superconducting magnet coil and kilovolt charge across the cavity. This is the engine we need. Now, you may be able to use a ring of ultrasonic transducers as well to shape that plasma. But that's very, very new. I mean, I saw a video about this today, and the research is still very, very early doors. I think they're just using a small Tesla coil output with a coil to shape it and move it around. It works. And I've spoken to the guys at Hacksmith a couple of times about this, that where they're going through lightsabers as a stream of fire that's laminar flow, and that is one big part of it. The other big part of it is then you have this chemical kind of plasma, but it's not really a fully dissociated plasma. You need to pump more energy into it and electrify it and accelerate it and shape it using sound and microwaves. So fundamentally, lightsabers and this engine tech I'm talking about are fundamentally the same thing, but one's a large thing and one's a small thing that fits in your hands. So there's a pathway there from building this big engine through to building lightsabers, which would be dope. But it's that's again, one thing that gets constantly drummed into me when I'm speaking to people in these business meetings and just in the real world is trying to ground what all this pie in the sky stuff to actually actionable, what can be engineered, what can be built today, which helps in one hand, but also diminishes my creativity in the other. But yeah, these bids, putting them in, money from the government would be great. Grants in the UK are typically paid in lieu, and then you've also got to get match funding for a lot of stuff as well. So they're grants in grant name only. You still need to find additional investment to get the grant. So we're speaking to people in the financial markets, trying to work out how we could structure that, if that's even possible. I'd love to do it through Patreon and crowdsourced means, but my experience with it has been that nobody really wants what I'm selling. To be brutally honest, I put the operating system out there as a thing that people could buy as a prototype. Nobody bought it. I still have a whole merch store. Nobody buys anything from there. And it does get you disheartened. It does get you really disheartened. Because there's only so much that you can pour into something where there isn't really much emotional return on it. Even if it's not financial, just emotional return alone. And building a community of people where you feel accepted and you feel like you're part of it and not on the periphery always. I don't know, that might just be me. I've just always felt like that. Since I was a kid, I was always the odd one out, so never really found quite where it all meshes together. Like I'm some weird nexus between the gamers, the rocket designers, the politicos and economics people. And everyone thinks I'm crazy. And everybody just kind of tolerates me being there. At least that's my interpretation of it. But I've learned how to work in that space. Because I've still got to live, I've still got to exist. But we've never really made any money, and it does get to a point where, like, I'm 33 now, not like in my early 20s when I first started now. And my friends have all got houses and kids, and I did make a gambit with myself that it was worth investing all this time now and watching my friends accelerate away from me, because the payoff would be so much greater in such quick measure that it would make it all worth it. But then as time went on, that never came. And I do my best to entertain people with what I post and what I produce, and try to produce things that match the people that I look up to in the field, like Joe Barnard and the way he produces all of his videos. Like, yeah, it's just unbelievable. And I've just been watching the new trailer for Marathon and looking through some of the gameplay of it. The way they have structured their graphic realism, and it's just so tight, and it's everything that I want Supernova Labs and the Open Space Wind project to be. But there's only so much that I can do as one person, and it's like I can never quite get it to the point where it is in my head. I'm sure a lot of people deal with this. But I'm sure a lot of other people have teams as well that they're paying, but I can't afford a team. It's like chicken and egg, isn't it? The only fortunate thing about this situation is that I'm not in debt. And it's been such a core thing that, because I had a credit card when I was coming out of university, and like I've had loads of debt. It was just completely unsustainable. And I made a promise to myself back then that I wouldn't go into debt like that ever again. And I think my account is overdrawn at the minute, but by £1.77p. I'm quite fortunate that my family are looking after me. But more and more people are telling me that if this hasn't worked within 10 years, then it is a failure. And I've always told myself is that it's not a failure until you accept it's a failure and you give up. But I'll be real, like, speaking to a lot of these people recently, like, the response is kind of lukewarm to all of it, if at all. People are excited about the technology and the ability to like build this kind of thing, but it always comes down to money. It always comes down to who has the resources and who doesn't. And the reality is, I'm one of those people that just doesn't have the resources. I can create the resources, but I think something that a lot of people don't appreciate, that in that creative process, people lose a part of themselves, and it costs health, emotional well-being, mental health, to build those resources where you don't have them. I don't know, maybe it's just me. Maybe it is just me. Because I don't know how people are so bloody productive. I think, yeah, they build systems and they live in those systems and it just works for them, but I don't know, they're battling mental health and physical health and chronically under-resourced. It gets to you after a while. It really gets to you. But enough of the pity party. Right, what's happening next? My time horizon goes to the UK Space Conference. So, for those that don't know, the UK Space Agency runs a conference every year in the UK. And this year it's in Manchester, which is kind of poetic. And it's in July the 16th and 17th. So all these bids and all of this work I'm trying to put in right now is like just my last push to try and make this work and get it to a point where it's over the line and making money, because if we're not making money by then, I need to put it down. I need to put it down. I can tell that the people around me are worried about me, and for all that I would give to you, anonymous user on the internet that is watching this, maybe the one person that's watching this is costing too much and it's not bringing me much in return. So I hope you can appreciate me being candid with you, and I hope you open your wallets. I'll link my Patreon. I'll link a subscription membership as well if you want to subscribe and do a regular monthly thing as well. I don't know whether it's that I just don't produce enough, but I'll produce as much as I can. And I think that's all you can really ask of me. And £10 a month's not a lot to ask for. It's really not. And it would make a world of difference. Just at the minute I haven't bought my ticket to the UK Space Conference, I can't afford it. So that's the long and short of it. That's where I'm at. I hope that you're all having a wonderful time out there on the internet. I know my friends in America are not having a great time right now, and that does take up a sizable chunk of my time organising people and trying to get around that problem and work my way through it. But whenever I'm dealing with Trump, I always think back to a great anime called Ranking of Kings, and in that there is like a big boss king who's like the strongest guy ever, and he does a deal with a witch to steal his son's power in exchange for making him strong forever. And the son that's born is a small boy called Boji, who is the weakest of all of them and can barely lift a sword. But he learns to harness that power because he has speed that nobody else has. And he's taught a technique whereby he is given a needle sword because it's the only sword he can carry. But in precisely targeting pressure points and meridians with a single prod strike, take down the largest opponents because he focuses on the weakest part of the structure. And when you focus on the weakest part of the structure, it's easy to collapse. It's such a powerful lesson, and it's so subtle in the way that it's delivered as well, because it's applicable everywhere. And when you look at, well, people like the fucking Wizard of Oz, right? People like Trump can build themselves up to be this big, gargantuan, tremendous power in the world. But really, you can pull back the screen and it's just a scared little orange man behind it all. And he's not invulnerable. In fact, I think part of the reason he is there and doing all this is because he's very vulnerable, and all of this structure he has to build around himself, and the money and the companies and the billionaire oligarchies building around himself, this is all shells upon shells upon shells to protect that core that's fundamentally misaligned and weak as a result. Now, not to say that weakness is weak. Weakness can be a strength, as I've already described. But I don't know. Like, you get to a point where you see past the veil, and you can't help but feel sorry for him. You can't help but feel sorry for him. But he's just producing so much harm, and just so dug in on becoming the worst version of himself that it becomes unforgivable. Because he had a chance. And the reality is, he's one of these people that just won't change. Now, I don't like giving up on people. I've always believed in the better angels of our nature and in humanity, and that we can all work together and build a peaceful world, but as time's gone on, you just realise there are people out there that just don't want that, and are aiming to make the world as chaotic and brutal and cruel as they can possibly make it. And you can't excuse it anymore. I still have no idea what to do with that, to be honest. It's unsettling because it's... the thoughts I have about this are unlike myself. But yeah, enough ruminating. Let me share those links in the description. If you can afford the time and appreciate you going through them, just have a look at what we're doing. Maybe put some money on the table, that would really help. I know everybody's struggling right now, but I don't make enough money to eat without support from my family at the minute, and that's just not acceptable anymore, personally. So if you want to see me keep doing this, there's got to be a compromise somewhere. Otherwise I've got to put it down and get a job like the rest of everybody. Which I'm not averse to, but in doing so, We'll have all lost what this could have been. That's it. Have a great day. Still believe in you all. Speak soon.